That's the last slide that I have, so we'll just do Q&A. That went a little bit faster than I expected, but that's okay. So, any questions? Yeah, well, okay, we'll do him, and then we'll do you. Oh, sure, sorry.
Oh. Is it me? Cool.
It's you.
So as someone with a very small channel.
How small?
Like under 200 subs.
Okay.
That's small. Just starting. How would I best optimize the entire algorithm to rank higher than someone normally starting out? If that makes sense.
Right. That is a common problem, and honestly, at the very, very beginning, SEO is not necessarily the best strategy for you.
Okay.
And the problem is that your native factors will not be very strong, like the watch time, the retention might be okay, but you won't get a lot of shares, you probably don't have a lot of engagement numbers, so that's going to be really difficult. You can obviously still rank a video, but you would need to rank it for smaller searches. So you would need to find way more sort of niche searches and then rank it in that. But it is going to be difficult. One way you can do it is, what's a good way of saying this? In a non-spammy way, use your keywords even more times. Just be aware that this used to work really, really well and kind of still works well, but compared to a year ago, it doesn't work as well as it used to. So I think YouTube is sort of catching on that it was just too easy. And now they're looking at saying, well, okay, if you have your keyword like 80 times in the description, that's just not normal in any sense or form. So they just stopped counting at one point. Amazingly, it doesn't look like it's necessarily negative for the video. It just looks like it doesn't like boost it anymore. But look at smaller searches, and then look at getting followers, subscribers, views from sort of external sources, like maybe start using like a Reddit strategy to bring in people from there. And then when you have, like SEO starts getting really interesting when your videos start getting like maybe 5,000, 10,000 views, then you can start really messing with it. And then obviously once you get to like 100,000 views, then you can really start messing with it, because again, a lot of people aren't really optimizing their videos very well. But right at the beginning, it's not necessarily the best strategy for you.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, I think you were next.
Yeah. How important are channel tags for your videos? The actual...
Like on the actual channel?
Yes.
I would say not at all.
Yeah.
Maybe they matter, but if they matter, I'd say they matter like way not a lot. But I don't, but that, to be honest, that's a hunch. Like I don't have any data to prove like either or, but personally I wouldn't worry about it. Put in the ones that you think are relevant sort of overall. I'm not saying like don't do it, because it takes like 5 minutes to do, so why not? But I would never like create a strategy out of it. That seems like unreasonable.
And another question I had, regarding the description, is it better to put bold text? Does kind of having subheadings, asterisks and whatnot kind of hamper?
I would say just like obviously not a lot of people read them. Very, very few people read them. But if people decide to read them, it's always nice that it's just structured a little bit. I hate opening a description, it's just like a wall of text. At least, because at the very least you might want to link to your website or whatever, and if it's just a wall of text, there's no way anyone can figure that out. So like, break it up a little bit. I would always do that, it just looks nicer. But I don't... It probably makes a little difference just because it might analyze the text, so it might make a little positive difference to actually set it up as you write an actual blog post. So I would do it that way, but if you can't, it's not like I think it's the end of the world. Okay? Yep.
Question relating to the different ways you're talking about finding keywords.
Yeah.
What's your personal opinion on things like VidIQ, TubeBuddy, all those kind of plugins? I guess two parts of the question. What do you think about the data they provide? And B, they all claim to be YouTube certified. You get some mixed results because, as you said, YouTube would prefer you not to do keyword research and just to make it more natural. They clearly push you to the complete opposite of that argument. So I was wondering what your thoughts are on that.
Well, regarding the keywords, they don't have access to something other people don't. So at best they're pulling in keyword suggestions the same way that keywordtool.io is doing it. And any numbers they're providing, they're taking that from Google. Like numbers on searches on YouTube do not exist. Like just straight up. So any sort of tool or software site that says like this is how many people are searching for this on YouTube, that's just sort of bullshit. For them being certified, I think that's perfectly fine. I mean, YouTube would probably prefer we didn't have a job, but I don't think they're hammering sort of super obvious down on it. They're just making our job a lot more difficult.
And a follow-up with one more thing is just the data it gives you that makes it great is the fact that it tries to give you data that will lead you to believe where you rank for a certain word, and I'm sure they use that by trawling everything and trying to pull back data that would say on average where you rank and things like that. Is that realistic, you think, or is that...
Yeah, sure. It's completely realistic. The problem with some of those, Susan, is actually one of the reasons that I'm developing my own.
Yeah.
Plug. Is that first off, they're only doing it for, generally they're doing it internationally or for the US. And for anyone not in the US, that's sort of useless. For most people, they want to know where do I rank in my own country. For instance, in Denmark, if I make a video in Danish with everything in Danish, I obviously don't care that I'm not ranking particularly well in the US because they can't understand it. So that's one of the key problems. If you're looking at where you rank and then you go on YouTube and you say like, well, I don't see myself, that makes sense from the perspective that, maybe I should have mentioned this earlier, YouTube obviously customizes the search result way, like, it's not completely different from person to person. I'd say like 20 to 30% is customized for you to, YouTube sort of tries with the recommendational algorithm to try to make you watch more videos. So for instance, if there's a creator that you really like, and they have videos about that subject, they'll rank a little bit higher. You'll notice that your own videos, like from your own channel, will usually rank higher when you go as yourself and look, and then if you pull it through the API, you'll rank a little bit lower.
Yeah, you're right, because even if you look at your own channel through incognito mode, right, the results are completely different.
Yeah.
When you search it yourself.
Yeah, though don't trust, a lot of people make that mistake with a lot of the incognito modes and stuff like that. They don't actually hide sort of your destination and cookies and stuff like that. It just doesn't save stuff, basically. So that's just like, in case anyone is doing that. Because a lot of people make that mistake constantly. I'm like, that's not exactly how it works though.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the reason that you're seeing different results is because you're seeing the customized search result and not the sort of the pure API result. But of course, when I was looking at it, I did pull things straight from the API just because that's the most sort of neutral way you can look at it. And then, sure, it'll always vary a little bit, but that's the most neutral way you can do it.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hey, Phil.
Yep.
Is it worth re-optimizing a bunch of older, let's say hundreds of old YouTube videos? And if so, how long do you think it takes YouTube to reindex all the changes?
I would say, depending on how many views, yes. Like if it's old videos where they have like a fraction of the views your videos are getting now, maybe not. But generally, yes. Like it's still perfectly fine to optimize older videos. I got carried away. What was the second part?
Like how long does it take YouTube to
Right, how long? Pretty much instantly, within a day. Once you change it, that's one of the great things about SEO on YouTube. Like Google takes at least a couple of days, sometimes like a week, and in the old days it took like a month. YouTube, you optimize your video, you can see the result within 24 hours, usually less. So you know if you did it right or not. One thing you should know though is that you can often see a spike. When you optimize the video, it'll pop up really high, and then maybe over a couple of days it'll fall down again a little bit. And the reason I think it's doing that is that YouTube is essentially sort of testing it out and saying, okay, sure, it's probably really about this, so we're gonna put it here, and then we're gonna see how users react to the video being here. And if it's not performing very well, then we're gonna push it down a little bit. But, so it reacts really, really fast, and I would say, on average, yes, it's definitely worth it doing it backwards. But only, I would say, look at what the sort of the videos are about and consider if those are actually keywords that people would usually search for. Because there's no point in spending time optimizing all your old videos if it's for keywords that have like really low searches. So if you're already getting like hundreds of thousands of views on your videos and you're optimizing old videos for searches where like there's like 1,000 people a month that searches for it, it's not worth your time. Right? So, yeah.
I have two questions.
Sure.
Number one, I don't do this, but I see people take the transcript of the video and just like dump it in the description.
Right.
I want to know if you think that the duplicate content there is going to be hurting them, or if it's like, if it doesn't matter. And my second question is that I think that YouTube SEO is super loose. I think that like when you compare, it's like, you know, Google, like optimizing for that ad, you have to be very careful. You can't be spammy ad, or YouTube, it's not the same, the slightest. Do you think that YouTube will ever care? They don't seem to care. They could, you know, like Google. Do you think that they will start slamming down on that?
Honestly, well, yes, a little bit, and they have over time. Like, if you look at how sort of people optimize videos in the past, they would basically just take their tags and then like Control-V like 10 times in the description and say, okay, I'm done. That doesn't work anymore, and if you're doing it that extreme, YouTube will sort of hurt you for it. But the reason I think they don't care that much is just because they have so many other ways of figuring out if it's a good or a bad video. And as I said, in the future, I think they'll just try to straight up analyze the actual content of the video. Right now, they can only do sort of the subtitles, and they're usually pretty bad. But over, like, give it 5 years, and it'll be really good. And give it another 5 years, and then we'll have machine learning that's a lot better, and it might actually be able to analyze the actual frame-by-frame video. I mean, already now, YouTube has an algorithm that can say if there's a cat in the frame or not. So they were trying to get there, but not quite there yet. What was the first part?
The first question was about like, if you take transcript.
Right. Only do that if there's actually, if your keyword is actually in there. Because otherwise there's just not really a point, then it's just confusing text.
So this is not an issue with duplicate content that comes to YouTube?
No, not in the descriptions. At least I don't think so. I think, in general, yes, you should always write unique descriptions and unique tags for all your videos. I see when we have, like, for instance, some older clients that I work with, we would have to optimize, let's say, like 200 videos on the channel. And we would have like 50 hours to do it. So we would have to make like really basic templates where we reuse like 80% over maybe 20 or 30 videos. It doesn't work as well. It works, but it doesn't work as well. But straight up duplicate content, no, because YouTube will care about the actual video content, not the description content. Yep. Yep.
You were saying you'll see a spike if you change descriptions and so forth. How many times, like if you do that multiple times over, you see it spike, it drops, you change it again, you see it spike, it drops.
Right, now it would probably, I haven't actually tried doing that too much because I don't think there would be any positive outcome of that.
Yeah.
I think you would see a spike, and then the next time you would see a little spike, and then the third time it would just disappear.
Yeah.
I think after a couple of tries, YouTube would just goes like, what is going on with this video? And then just like, forget it. Yeah. Yep.
One more point. You mentioned long-tail keywords.
Yeah.
Is that I've read that it's far more important to focus on those for specificity, for like what you're trying to search for. Obviously, if everyone's searching for trains, if you would say, you know, trains on fire or trains in water or something, whatever the stupid thing is, because it's more specific, it's going to be better for you. Is that also true?
Yes, that will be true, like no matter if it's on YouTube, if it's on Google, Bing, whatever. The more specific that you can hit a search, and have content specifically relevant to that, the better. But it obviously, your video obviously needs to actually be about that very specific niche and keyword. But it's also important to then remember that there's gonna be less searches for that, obviously. But it's usually gonna be, at least if you're like running a business, it's gonna be better results that you're gonna get from it, sort of user-wise. But if you're pulling in, your main revenue source is just views and ad revenue on YouTube, then that might not be worth it. Then you have to go for like the massive keywords, right?
Where you're more competitive and...
Yeah, well that's also the thing, right? With the short tail keywords, like let's say trains, there's gonna be massive competition for that. Maybe not even because people are optimizing for that, just because it's sort of a very wide thing and there's just a lot more people doing something about that. But if you're looking for trains on fire or cute trains, I don't know why anyone would search for cute trains. That was a weird thing, Philip. There's gonna be a lot less competition for it, so it's gonna be easier to rank. Yeah?
Yeah, hey, the first question was just relating to the question that was just asked a moment ago. With when you're doing more long tail tags, from your point of view, how does that affect your ability to show up in the, for example, with that showing up in the broader train search? Yeah, no, I don't actually mean search. Sorry, I mean the late in the day suggested videos. So, for instance, train in general on YouTube, fantastic. Suggested videos, absolutely fantastic. So, if there are lots of long tail, very much train orientated phrase keywords, can you still have the potential to show up and get high exposure in the suggested, or is it possible to overdo it and pigeonhole yourself and therefore hurt yourself in terms of generic train suggested video views?
Right.
And hence the opportunity to sort of explode your video a bit and boom up.
Right. That really depends on how popular your video is. For it to make the jump from your sort of your long tail keyword to the short tail keyword, I suppose, it would need to be quite popular. But it would need to be quite popular to do that anyway. Like if you had it about trains from the beginning, but it wasn't a popular video, it still wouldn't pop up in the recommended, in the suggested. So you would need to be having like a really popular video in here. It is possible, but obviously the more you optimize your video specifically for that very specific long tail keyword, the more difficult it's going to be, because YouTube's going to say it's not just about trains, it's about cute trains.
Right, so from that point of view, perhaps in your opinion, are you suggesting then, if I understand what you're saying correctly, that having a balance is important so that you don't get stuck in a small corner like that?
Well, I would actually say it's almost better to get stuck in a small corner sort of in that situation, because I don't think it's necessarily realistic that you would like pop up in all the recommended searches and suggested videos on the side. That's going to be really tricky, and it's going to be really hit and miss a lot of the time. But again, it's important that I really have to stress that we're talking about the search algorithm here. And what works with the search algorithm is not necessarily what works well with some of the other parts of the algorithm. So it's up to you, and you sort of have to experiment a little and see what parts work for you specifically on that one.
Sure, and then the second question, which was just a really quick one. In the description, I've noticed that there's some channels out there that have a strong preference towards internally suggesting other recommended videos in their description.
Yeah.
Of course, there's nothing wrong in terms of the guidelines. They're just listing the title of the video and the link, and sometimes you see them do that 5, 10 or 15 times.
Yeah, I think that's overkill.
Yeah.
I think it's fine to have a couple of videos in there. I think it's fine to have a couple of playlists in there. Maybe one playlist, I would actually say. But the ones where you go there and you open the description and it's like 40 links, overkill, way overkill. Besides, who's going to click on all that? Find a couple of videos that are actually super relevant to that video, and it's fine to link to it. In fact, I think it's good to link to other videos. I think YouTube sort of likes it, which makes sense because you're keeping people more on YouTube, and unsurprisingly, YouTube think that's a super cool idea.
So less is more, essentially.
Yeah, in that case. Not less is more to the point where it's 0, but yes to the point where it's not 40.
So just don't overdo it.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
They run so fast.
In kids' toys area specifically, a lot of channels are putting in tag stuffing or a couple of sentences of foreign languages, usually the common ones like Spanish or some European languages. What do you think of that sort of strategy?
I think that's rubbish.
Rubbish?
I wouldn't do that.
Okay,
and even if it works short term, it's not going to work long term.
Especially in the text as well, they'll have like 60-70% of the English text, the rest will be like a couple of, like for example, toys and kids, those keywords will be many foreign languages.
Right, I really think that's just, for the most part, maybe in some cases they might be doing it in a super clever way. I'm not going to say it's never going to work, but I think for the most part, they're just sort of shooting themselves in the foot because they're just confusing the algorithm what the video is about and sort of what the target demographic and what countries is for. Again, the algorithm will look at the words and say what words are related to this and what's the specific topic, and then when you type in cute trains in YouTube, the algorithm's job is to find the best, most relevant video for that search term on the entirety of the 16 years of content every single day YouTube database. So the more you confuse with metadata what your video is about, the less specifically relevant for that thing it's going to be. So yeah, I don't think that's a good tactic.
Right, so it'd be better just to do a manual translation of the TTD, text title description, yourself for the languages you want to target.
I'm sorry?
So it'd be better to just manually translate, you have the manual translation fields.
Yeah.
So you'll recommend just manually translating the video metadata?
No, I'm not sure I follow the question.
You know, like in the dashboard you've got a place called translation.
Yeah.
And then you can translate the languages,
Yeah.
the metadata into different languages.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll recommend doing that?
Oh, sure. But don't... It's getting a little tricky when you're trying to target like several different demographics with the same video. That's always going to be a little bit tricky. I would personally suggest you have different videos for different languages and different demographics and target them that way. I think that would generally work better. I think that would generally get you better user metrics in terms of engagement. And definitely don't mess with the tags, like in the sense of like messing them with all different kinds of languages and words and stuff like that.
Back to the trains.
Yeah.
Say for instance you have Q trains, angry trains, but you still include the word trains. So if the video does grow, you might kind of go with the wave of the train, so kind of volume.
How would you write Q trains without trains?
No, so you do just the word train singular and then.
Oh, you mean like in the tags?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's say you had very cute trains. You would have very cute trains, cute, very cute, very train. That sounds funny. And then very, very train and very, very cute train, extremely cute trains, and train in like singular and trains in plural, and it's like all the variation that you can think of. Just really hammer the algorithm. Goes like, this is what my video is about, goddammit, and eventually it'll get it. Yeah?
On that, so like, I feel like that if you were doing that for Google search, because obviously like tags, you put like meta tags in Google, like,
Right.
it's like the meta tags. So if you did that on like a little web page in Google, I feel like Google would be like, this is so
I don't know why, but the sort of in terms of the search algorithm in that way, the one on YouTube is like ancient compared to Google.
No, that's not my question. My question is, do you think, I'm just curious, do you think that if you are spamming with your tags and then your meta tags, that it's going to affect your rankings in the Google algorithm?
Honestly, so far from what I've seen, how you rank a video on YouTube and how you rank the video in Google are two completely separate things. They don't correlate whatsoever. And at least it used to be that ranking YouTube videos in Google sort of worked in a really funky way because YouTube was such an authority site that you could just pretty much do anything to your video and Google would consider it completely normal. The good old days, like 3 years ago, you could just buy like 10,000 links to your video and it's like, there we go. Where would you do that to a website and it would just tank, right? But generally, there's no real correlation to that. I would look at a specific strategy for Google and then a specific strategy for YouTube. But primarily, I would say focus on having your video in YouTube because that's where it's most easy to get off. Because if you're ranking number 2 or number 3 in YouTube, that's still gonna be good for you and people are still gonna watch it. But if you're ranking as a video, as the video number 2 or 3, that's not gonna show up on the actual search results. In Google, you would have to click the videos tab before you see number 3 video, and that's not very relevant. Not a lot of people do that, so that's why I would focus on YouTube search first.
Yeah, I find traffic that comes in from Google is like quite low quality.
Yeah. Last one? No? Okay, good, because we're like done 10 minutes ago. Awesome, thank you very much. I'll be around out there if people want to ask anything afterwards.